There's that funky slide guitar music that comes in every Monday through Friday, live at 5 in the Evil Hippie Network. YouTube, check us out, subscribe, type in iNewsWire, Roy Bleckert. You'll see my nice, smiling, shining face. Man, you can get all our archives on that. Of course, we'll join the Mighty Met KMET, 1490 AM at the bottom of the hour like we usually do. Man, a lot of stuff broke today. Get to it in a minute. The trannies lost 8-1 at the Supreme Court. Colorado decision is out. More victories coming to finally to the citizens, the great citizens who deserve it, of the United States of America. Trump signs executive order to secure dishonest elections. He finally, since it appears the Senate, John Thune, the incompetent piece of trash, cannot get the Save America Act out of the Senate. After 6 months, Trump finally said, to hell with it, signing the executive orders. We'll give you the story on that here in a second. Of course, Chad Bianco versus Rob Bonta, our Attorney General, in the fight that's went on holy bejesus for a long time here with the battle of counting the ballots, which is absolutely ridiculous. We'll get to that story to update on that. And of course, this one is absolutely fabulous. The black gold gushes into California as offshore bill kicks into gear following Trump's other executive order he signed the other day. Said the war's going to be ending soon. He said that at the signing of the election integrity executive order, soon to be in place. I missed this one yesterday. This was absolutely fabulous. World of Outlaws Sprint Cars. Buddy Kofoid, Senate. And then he won it. Man, a spectacular pass, as they say, for the lead. Let's see if she plays. Oops. Let's see if we can get it to work correctly. Now, I think it will play. Here we go.
In Park City, Kansas. Timms with Kofoid. Kofoid with a run down the back straightaway. Final time into turns 3 and 4. Here's Kofoid with the slide job to the cushion. Timms crosses back under the lead, but Buddy Kofoid gets the win in the final.
Dodge City, Kansas. Now, wasn't that a rip? 3 or 4 car links back coming out of turn 2. I mean, that was absolutely spectacular. I haven't seen her move on a short track in a long time like that, to come from that far back. There he is coming out of 2. I mean, he's 3 or 4, maybe 5 car links back coming out of 2. Going into 3, man, he sends it like nobody's probably sent it before, and wins World of Outlaws Sprint Car main event in spectacular fashion in Dodge City, Kansas. Man, that was one heck of a deal. Supreme Court's told the trannies and all these clowns and schools that have been, doing the absolute evil. Taking kids, even adolescents, preteens, teens, and just trying to screw their head over like nobody's ever done before. Oh, you're a boy, maybe you're a girl, maybe you're John, and you want to be called Juanita. And you hate those evil white men. They're just the scourge of everything. Supreme Court ruled 8-1. Colorado had this law in effect, and they forbid counselors to say, you might be a youngster and you might grow out of this. It might be a phase. Ask Chloe Cole and many others. And unfortunately, as in Chloe Cole, she had her breast cut off, and that's pretty much irreversible. At 15, and then at 16, oh, I've made a horrible mistake. The only one to vote for this is that absolute ding-dong Ketanji Jackson Brown. She's the only one that voted for that. Even Kagan and Sotomayor said this is ridiculous. It was a free speech issue. Here's the Fox News report. Here we go. We thought.
Violates First Amendment rights. Let's bring in Fox News legal editor Carrie Urban on the news. Your initial thoughts on this are what?
Yeah, this is a big win for free speech. The Supreme Court in an 8-1 decision said that counselors can't be forced to counsel against their beliefs, which may feel obvious in a free country, but that was not the case in Colorado, unfortunately. They had passed a law that was targeting counselors who had voluntary conversations with minors. These kids were distressed about their gender identity, and this law said you can only counsel one way, a way that embraces gender dysphoria, a way...
No, embraces stupidity. Okay, you're 13, you know, you're going through all sorts of hormonal changes in the whole thing. You're going from being a kid to starting the transition into adult is where you're transitioning into. You think you know the world. You think nobody's more intelligent than you. You got every answer. Of course, they're vulnerable, and they're preying on kids' vulnerabilities at that time, and that's what this law basically said is a no way no.
Way that embraces transgenderism and say, if you want to tell a kid, hey, your body's not a mistake, you don't have to take those drugs, you don't have to engage in harmful surgeries, that's against the law. And so the Supreme Court spoke pretty resoundingly today in saying, nope, that's viewpoint discrimination and we're not going to tolerate it.
And I just want to pull up a call for two, which is Justice Jackson's dissent. And
oh, here we go. This is going to be brilliant.
She said, to do anything else opens up a dangerous can of worms. It threatens to impair states' ability to regulate the provision of medical care in any respect. It extends the Constitution into uncharted territory in an utterly irrational fashion, and it ultimately...
The only irrationality in this is Ketanji Jackson Brown, or whatever. Oh, it's going to be health care, and it's going to not... You know, those Neanderthal white boys are going to run everything. You know, they're just... Shut up. You make zero, any coherent sense, you mental midget.
risks grave harm to Americans' health and well-being. And she read that from the bench, and I think that's sort of signals that she was really, really intent on what she was trying to say.
Yeah, she feels very strongly about it. That's what justices do when they feel strongly and passionately about something. They read their dissent from the bench. But, you know, again, this was an 8-1 decision. So not only is she out of step with the rest of her colleagues, I would argue she's out of step with the country and really the world at this point.
No kidding, she is. This is another one of these 80-20 issues, and probably 90-10, probably 111%. The few that are going along with this are like, oh, they just don't want to deal with the flack. Again, even Sotomayor and Kagan would not go along with Ketanji Brown Jackson, and they vote 98.7% lockstep 3-0 all the time. They said, you gotta be kidding. No, there is a line. It gives us hope. It really does. This Supreme Court ruling about matches probably the country. About 90-10. You probably got, realistically, you probably got 10% of the radical nut, democratic socialists, left-wing loons, eco-freak tree-hugging, ignoramuses that actually believe that. They had their stupid rally last week and made fool, communists this, carrying the communist flag. We want to bring back Khrushchev and Mao. We praise Vladimir Putin and ping pong. This is absolutely, there's always 10% of just plain mentally ill kooks running around. And this is another example, like the election integrity, voter ID that we'll be getting to here in a second. The Supreme Court probably accurately reflected the opinions of the country, and Ketanji Jackson Brown held up the flag for the people that just want to destroy life as we know it. It's good that we have this because, in a way, it's good she's on there. The good part of she's on there is it exposes their intentions. Again, we'll get into this and much, much more, because it's going to be one hell of a ride on today's show. Absolutely is. That's just the first shot today that we had of surprises all across the board. One thing that Trump said before we get on this, he actually mentioned this is a press conference when he's signing the executive order on that. He mentioned it, so here we go.
That would be possible not to get those things to vote for. And then we added, best of Trump, we added no men and women sports, different subject, but we added that. And we said no transgender mutilization of our children. These are all 90, 95, maybe 98 in some cases, maybe 99 in terms of those first two. If you talk about the first two, I think at 98, 99%.
He may not be exactly wrong on that either. I mean, I'm saying at least 90%. At least 90% of the country is going that direction. And Trump definitely has his finger on the pulse of the American people when he said that, as long as the Supreme Court today. Great job standing down the trannies and all the radical kooks that have been just chomping at the bit with that whole enchilada. And just so everybody doesn't get depressed and want to jump off, walk off the ledge, walk the plank on the ship and jump in the ocean, jump off the Golden Gate Bridge. Black gold gushes. Black gold gushes. Into California's offshore bill kicks into gear following Trump's executive orders, from the California Post. Benjamin Brown. After being offline for more than a decade, oil is officially flowing again through the Santa Ynez pipeline system off the coast of Southern California. That's from a rash of executive orders put in place by Donald J. He signed these finally. Of course, Rob Bonner's trying to sue and Gavin Newsom are trying to sue to stop that. Finally, we have this site coming off the Santa Barbara coast. And I could give a crap less if we have these one every 100 feet. The oil that comes out of Santa Barbara in that, and actually we can do slant drilling coming in where you don't even see this most of the time. What doesn't bother me, but this is what they call light sweet crude, like you get out of Saudi Arabia, Iran, Iraq. It's very light. Short story is it transitions, refines, you want to use that transition word, refines into gas, diesel, jet fuel very, very quickly and very inexpensively. Different from the LA, Central California, which is heavier, takes more to refine, more suited to doing, or makes good asphalt material, heavy greases, oils, yada, yada, yada. The oil that comes off the coast, man, just goes boom right through the refinery, the few we have left. And boom, right, out there into the pipeline or the truck, delivered to the gas station, you pump it in your car, and away you go, living the life of luxury, hopefully. So we want to be proud that Donald J. got the oil derricks, after 10 years, fired up, oil's flowing through the pipelines again. He did this under emergency order because of the Iran war, which we're going to get to in a second. But it's absolutely fantastic that Trump got this done, and this will have hopefully, if nobody shuts it off, will have big long-term effects on our ability to have a high quality of life. Trump tweeting at 7 o'clock in the morning, this little vignette, all those countries that can't get jet fuel because of Strait of Hormuz, like the United Kingdom, which refused to get involved in the decapitation of Iran, I have a suggestion for you. Number one, buy from the U.S. We have plenty. Number two, build up some delayed courage, go to the Strait, and just take it. You'll have to start learning how to fight for yourself. The USA won't be there to help you anymore. Just like you weren't there for us, Iran has been essentially decimated. The hard part is done. Go get your own oil. President Donald J. Trump. So it looks like, and I'm glad he didn't do this, the signing the executive order on election integrity, which we'll get to in a minute. Glad he didn't do this tomorrow on April Fool's Day, because everybody really, we'd had the, first you'd have to think, is he clowning us? So I'm glad he had all these press conferences and press releases and retruths and all that. So it appears that we are wrapping up the operations in Iran. We're going into, Friday will be the end of week 5. They said 4 to 6 weeks. We have the integrity election executive order coming up. He said we're about 2 or 3 weeks. So, okay, if it goes to 7. Longer than I would have liked, and most of us. Here's Mr. Trump at the press conference today.
And to bring them back down.
All I have to do is leave Iran, and we'll be doing that very soon, and they'll become tumbling down. And stock prices were up today almost to a record because...
So you have it from the horse's mouth. And I'm sure the nattering nabobs of negativism will come up with 47 excuses, but he's El Presidente. He said we'll be leaving there soon. And soon cannot be soon enough, in my opinion. And I know a lot of people have. I've had a lot of angst about this. I think from the information we've gotten, I agree more with the Tulsi Gabbard, J.D. Vance camp, Raising Cain. Heck says kind of either way that we shouldn't have went in there in the first place. But we did, once you're in. And if we eliminated their weapons of mass destruction and all that, okay, and we're pulling out. I mean, you can make a case for that there was a threat to the United States if they got a nuclear weapon and fired it on us and had the capability. We should do that out. Whatever. That debate was done. If that operation is over and we pull out. So here's Trump's other comment at the press conference today, signing the election integrity, voter ID, executive order. Here we go.
Knocked
2 or 3
out.
weeks,
Excuse me?
Pardon me for interrupting. The U.S. will be gone or done with the war in 2
I think with
weeks?
2 or 3 weeks.
Not 3 weeks. If it is
We'll
3
leave.
weeks,
Because
then it
there's
would
no
be
reason
past
for us to
the
do this.
60
Look, problem with this trade, a guy can take a mine, drop it in the water, and say, oh, it's unsafe.
So basically what he was reiterating in his retruth this morning, we're done. We're not messing with the Strait of Hormuz. China, UK, Russia, who has oil that goes through there, wanted to do the deal. We done the heavy lifting. He also said negotiations are going on with Iran. He said they went through 2 regimes that are now at room temperature. He said the ones that are there now are wanting to negotiate and are negotiating in good faith about the nuclear weapons and all that. And he said once that's wrapped up and we've got assurances that they're not going to be building nuclear weapons, we're out of there. And that she said that should be done 2 to 3 weeks at the latest. So we'll see what happens. If he doesn't, then we can start, hey, what the H is going on? But that's where we're at. It appears, from all accounts, that we are getting ready to wrap up operations in Iran, and that cannot be a moment too soon. Man, as long as we're not in a 2, 20 year, 6 month, whatever fight, we can disagree or agree or whatever about what was happening in Iran, but if we're out in 2 or 3 weeks and the agreements are in, okay, that's done, Barry, with let's look forward. And because we've got a lot of other issues, as they say, that we need to work with. The other one that was kind of surprising, that came kind of out of left field, from Donald J. today, and this relates directly to California and the fires. He said, I've just met with various political representatives of the tragedy that took place in California concerning the burning of thousands of once beautiful homes. It was brought to my attention that the insurance companies, in particular State Farm and the FAIR Plan, which is state-run consortium of that, has been absolutely horrible to people that have been paying them large premiums for years, only to find out when tragedy struck, these horrendous companies we're not there to help. I've asked the administrator of the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency, Lee Zeldin, to give me a list of the companies who acted swiftly, courageously, and bravely in order to make their clients happy, and even more importantly, in order to fulfill their legal obligations. Likewise, I've asked to see those companies that were particularly bad. The names of some surprise me, but in the world in which we live, nothing really surprises me. State Farm and others, the Fair Plan, should get their act together and treat people fairly. The government is looking into this matter as we speak. President Donald J. Trump. And that's what if you hear the complaints, it's mostly State Farm and the Fair Plan, the government, the California run plan. Where's Ricardo Lara, Calfart Lara, our insurance commissioner? Oh, he's vacationing and partying on our dime, not taking care of this. Not only of the state farms and whomever, but the Fair Plan, which he has even more jurisdiction over. Why are we over a year and 3 months since the devastating fires? And most everybody is still like sitting, they can't rebuild because, one, the permitting process and buffoon baths and all that. Two, they're not getting their due insurance settlements that, they've been paying outrageous premiums, and they're going, what? They've doubled. Homeowners insurance, fire insurance, everything has at least doubled in the last 5 years and slated to go up 15 to 20% per year. So that was another one today that Trump addressed. The situation out here in California with the fires and the incompetence of Gavin Newsom, Buffoon Bass, Calfart Lara, Rob Bonta, and any of the icky eights like Katie Porter and all that, and the spy Swalwell. Another positive aspect of that, he addressed the birthright citizenship, which I think is going to be held or heard at the Supreme Court tomorrow. Let's see what he had to say.
The Supreme Court tomorrow is going to hear arguments about your executive order trying to get rid of birthright citizenship.
And I'm going.
You're going to go to the Supreme Court tomorrow.
I do believe
and just sit there and listen.
Because I have listened to this argument for so long, and this is not about
Donald J. showing up at the birthright citizenship oral arguments at the Supreme Court in person, in the audience. I didn't even know they did. Well, I guess they have the lawyers in, but it'd be kind of interesting to see if they escort him out or don't let him in. He's going to the birthright citizenship oral arguments at the Supreme Court. I don't know. This we'll have to find out. Has there ever been a president of the United States sit in the actual oral arguments? I've got to think there probably has been at that. I can't remember in my lifetime, which spanned parts of 7 decades, this ever happening. Here we go.
Chinese billionaires or billionaires from other countries who all of a sudden have 75 children or 59 children in one case or 10 children becoming American citizens. This was about slaves. And if you take a look, slaves, we're talking about slaves from the Civil War.
Don't know why. These videos. But again, very interesting. Trump rolls out, and it's going to be tomorrow, April Fool's Day, and I hope that wasn't an April Fool's joke, or a pre-one, that he's going. I hope he actually, again, I think it'd be fascinating to see if he really shows up. And of course, people are going to say, oh, he's trying to intimidate the Supreme Court. Yada, yada, yada. I hope we can get at least 5 justices to end this. It was clearly the intent when that was passed in the 14th Amendment to free the slaves so you couldn't come back at them. It wasn't meant, as we've had here in Moreno Valley, Paris, with the whole thing of the Chinese putting their kids in the school. That it wasn't meant to have rich people come in and, yeah, birth the kid here, come back, he's a citizen, da 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 da. It wasn't meant to come over from Mexico, have the kid go back, and that, or you hadn't applied for citizenship, or you hadn't come into the country legally and lawfully. And oh, all of a sudden, just because the kid was actually born here. I mean, we have, you know, if you're in the military or something, if somebody's from France and they would, let's say they were over here for some reason, maybe military or something, and I don't know why they would do that, but or vacationing, and I don't know why a woman got pregnant. Or let's say, you know, came an early pregnancy or something. You know, it's 7 months, kid decides it's going to pop out of the chute. And the kid was born here. France is not going to consider that a U.S. citizen. We shouldn't either. And I mean, you know, and there's exemptions, you know, like John McCain was. His dad was in the military stationed overseas. He was born in military base in France or wherever, Germany. You can't say that McCain wasn't a United States citizen because he wasn't physically born here. I mean, a natural-born citizen is, without question, one who's born here among parents or people here legally or lawfully in the United States. The whole birthright citizenship thing was meant for the slaves in 1870, so there wasn't any question you could kick them out of the country, or they weren't citizens, or their kids weren't, or yada, yada, yada. I hope we can get 5 votes. If it takes El Presidente Donald J. showing up, so be it. Glad he's doing it. It'll be a very interesting oral argument, and of course everybody will try to read the tea leaves and all that, and you can get kind of a sense of where they're going. But hey, you never know until that order comes up. I believe the previous Supreme Court rulings on that have been in error of the Constitution and the intent of the law. I think, of course, Alito and Thomas will definitely probably be that way. Hopefully Gorsuch, Kavanaugh, and 2 wild cards, 2 bigger wild cards, Barrett and Roberts. We got to have 3 of those 4 added on to Alito and Thomas to make it. It's going to be a tough climb. I'm glad POTUS is willing to sacrifice and take a couple hours out of his very busy day to address the issue.
You got 1 minute, Roy.
You got it. As that, and as Sean said, we'll be joining the Monument KMT here pretty quick. No, that's going to be a very important case that comes out all across the board on that. We'll tell you how it all works out. And who knows, maybe we'll pull a rabbit out of the hat on that one too. It's one we definitely need to reverse, and we hope with Donald J's help, the Supreme Court sees it is
30 seconds.
and we get that, you get birthright citizenship clarified to what the original intent of the 14th Amendment was, and we can all live happily ever after, as they say in the fairy tale.
Here we go, 10 seconds.
For those who support America, PatriotSwitch.com.
IE Newswire Daily is on the air.
The following is a paid program. Views and claims expressed are those of the program producer and are not endorsed by this station. Opinions expressed are not necessarily those of radio station KMET, its management, employees, or affiliates.
There's that funky slide guitar music that comes in every Monday through Friday, live at 5:30 in the Mighty Met 1490 AM, broadcasting all over the Inland Empire and the aforementioned AM band, joining our vast video audience, the Lefty Network, YouTube. Check us out, subscribe, type in IE Newswire Roy Bleckert. You'll see my nice, smiling, shining face, and you can catch all our archives so you can get us 24/7 of that and catch all the good news, which we got a lot of today. We're going to get to this one right here after we hit a few of the headlines. Trump signs executive order to secure dishonest U.S. elections. Holy cow, it's happening. Supreme Court rules against the trannies in an 8-1 decision. Only that nutcase, Ketanji Jackson Brown, voted against it. Even Kagan and Sotomayor said, you can't be influencing kids or only giving them one side of the story and trying to groom them into being trannies. A victory again today. Number 2, we'll update you on the Sheriff Chad's ballot recount and his war with Rob Bonnet in the state of California on that issue. The oil is flowing from Santa Barbara County. Finally. Thank you, Donald J. He indicated we're pulling out of Iran. He put out a retruth, and we did the press conference earlier. Said, hey, UK, China, whomever, you want us straight to Hormuz open, you guys done. We're done. We did the hard work. It's your ball game. We're done. He said we're also pulling out within 2 to 3 weeks, which would match the timeline basically sent. He also is forming and put EPA Secretary Lee Zeldin in charge of, hey, why aren't people getting their money for their houses that burnt in LA? Let's get on the stick. Let's get that done. We'll get into the Eric Swalwell story, hopefully. There's enough goodies going on that. But we have here, talk about an 80-20, 90-10 issue. This is a Harvard-Harris and CBS poll, both not part of the vast right-wing conspiracy, both 80-20, requiring valid photo ID to vote. It doesn't get much simpler than that. And for those of you polls, well, there it is. And what are you going to argue? What? Harris, Harvard, and CBS, YouGov, which slant, big time left, are not giving you accurate numbers on this. If anything, it's higher. It's probably, like Trump says, probably 90-10, 95-5, 98.7 to 1.3. So, of course, we had the signing from El Presidente, Donald J. He signs the executive order to secure our dishonest U.S. elections. Here's the opening salvo from Donald J. and Eric, who reads out the technical details. Here we go.
Well, thank you very much. This was a meeting set up very proudly by us, having to do with voter integrity and mail-in ballots and stopping the massive cheating that's gone on. And so we're going to be signing an executive order. It's, I believe it's foolproof. And maybe it'll be tested, maybe it won't. I think it's very obvious what's said. And I'll ask Will Scharf to start off, attorney, a great talent, a very brilliant young man. And if you could discuss it, and then I'm going to ask Howard Lutnick to say a few words, and then I'm going to sign it, and we'll take a couple of questions. Okay, thank you.
Mr. President, as you said, you have in front of you an executive order that deals with a number of issues relating to election integrity. As you've consistently identified, two of the biggest problems we have with election integrity in this country are, one, inaccurate voter rolls that allow ineligible people to vote in various federal and state elections all over the country. And secondarily, you've consistently identified that vote by mail in this country has become rife with fraud. People returning ballots who aren't eligible to return ballots being sent to people who aren't confirmed to be eligible voters. So what this executive order is going to do is, one, we're going to take federal data. We're going to ensure that each state's election officials are provided with a comprehensive view of who the eligible voters in their jurisdiction actually are, allowing them to properly verify that everybody voting in their elections is legally able to vote. And then it orders the Postmaster General and the U.S. Postal Service to take bold new measures to verify that ballots both being sent to people are being sent to people who are eligible to vote, and then the ballots being returned are being properly returned by eligible voters only. And we believe that combined, the measures in this executive order will help secure elections in the future and ensure that the many abuses of our election system in the past aren't repeated in future elections.
Right. Howard?
So let's stop there. El Presidente and Will eloquently described. And again, you got to clean the voter rolls. Like LA, 141% over voter registration over eligible voters. That allows them to cheat because even if they go 80%, which could be 105% of actual eligible voters, but it's only 80% showed up, and then these last minute ballots that can come out of LA County and Alameda up in Oakland. That's how they've been doing this. The bond, Prop A, or whatever it was in March of 2024 was the latest example. It was like 50-50 right on the edge, and then good old Alameda County right at the end bailed them out. In LA to extent. This is how they've been screwing us over. And Donald J. just signed the executive order today to do that. Now, of course, we'll get to this in a minute. We're going to have to see what the Supreme Court says, because that's ultimately who's going to decide that, since the Senate of the United States of America, led by turncoat, piece of trash John Thune, they took a vacation. They're not going to pass it. For various reasons, and we can get into that later. But that's where we're at. So POTUS finally said, and that's what he said, if how Congress and the Senate do not pass the Save America Act, I will do it by executive order. That's the only shot he's got left. Unless some genius out there's got some other way. What else has he got to do? The House and the Senate, the House acted, the Senate is trying to block it. Because there's corrupt as hell. Tommy Tuberville, Alabama senator, said, hey, the reason they're going to stall it is because Republican and Democrat senators, congressmen, and everywhere else all across the country owe their seats to fraud. That's how they keep control of them. Here's more from Donald J. at the presser, signing the executive order for verifying U.S. citizenship, cleaning the voter rolls, this mail-in ballot crap, ending. Here we go.
With some great legal minds, they looked at the various documents and everything that was going on, because the cheating on mail-in voting is legendary. It's horrible what's gone on. And it's very clearly covered, very, very clearly. So I think this will help a lot with elections. We'd like to have voter ID. We'd like to have proof of citizenship, and that'll be another subject for another time. We're working on that. You would think it would be easy. It's a 98% issue for Republicans. It's 86%. The thing just came out, a poll, and it's 86% with Republicans and Democrats, not leaders, because the leaders of the Democrats cheat. And the only people that don't want to do voter ID are people that cheat. There's no other reason for it. Proof of citizenship, they want to be able to cheat. There's no reason. They have all sorts of reasons, excuses, but it's all nonsense. They want to cheat. But the Democrats themselves are very high. It's a very positive, very good thing. The Democrat voters, the Democrat leaders, guys like Schumer, who are corrupt, they want to use it for cheating because their policy is so bad. Think of their policy: open borders for everybody, where people pour into our country from countries all over the world. Think of that. You look at just take any issue, take anything. Everything they have is so crazy. But the fact that they don't want to sign voter ID is another issue. It's a big issue. The fact that they don't have proof of citizenship, that they want transgender for everybody, that they want men in women's sports. So the only way, they assume, the only way they can win is to cheat. When you have men in women's sports, it's fine. It's wonderful. By the way, I worked very hard with the Olympic Committee.
So and again, almost everyone in the country agrees with POTUS on this one. To 80 to 90%. And I am kind of glad he broke it up and is going to, hopefully, he said, issue another executive order on photo ID precipitously. So they can't hang it up, oh, well, just because this provision's wrong, we're going to throw the whole thing out. So I think that's a very good strategic move to move this issue along. And he's right. The only reason they have all these complicated rules and regulations and policies and overinflated voting rolls and mail-in ballots and no ID is to cheat. Hands down. 1,000%. One more from the presser from Donald J. Just 2 hours ago. Things are looking much brighter than they were yesterday.
99% voter identification, right? Wouldn't you think? Don't you think it's nice with picture? Wouldn't you think it's nice? When the Democrats had their convention, I remember it so well, you had to have identification to get into the arena, and they had a card that was bigger than most of their chests. And it had everything. It had their picture, and if you didn't have that card...
Most democracies, France, Cuba, Venezuela, which is cheating like a son of a gun, they require photo ID to vote. Almost every semi-representative Republican has some sort of identification required when you go to vote, except the good old US of A. So I'm curious, and I hope he puts the executive order for photo ID here fairly soon, so we can get that issue over and done with. Of course, Mark Elias, the famous Democrat attorney that has sued over all this, and he's as much as I dislike what he does, he is very effective as the attorney. He was the one that come up with all the stuff with Hillary and the Crossfire Hurricane and all that crap. Was working for Perkins Coie, and then when that started getting a little bit hot, he went off on his own. If Trump signs an unconstitutional executive order to take over voting, we will sue. I don't bluff, and I usually win. Breaking, of course, that he put that out, President Trump is expected to sign. Well, he did. And of course we know it's going to be in the courts. That's why I say this is going to be a Supreme Court issue, basically. Well, they're going to be the final word. And it's going to rest on their shoulders now since Thune, the odious, I'm trying to be nice again, John Thune, leader of the Senate, will not let a vote on the Save America Act. At least Mike Johnson got that part out. While we're on the elections kick, Let's give you an update on the war between California Attorney General Rob Bonta and Sheriff Chad Bianco, who is trying to verify or find out the answer of these. Are there 45,000 phantom votes in the Prop 60 election, which was November of 2025, across the state of California, but in Riverside County? Is Team Temecula right or not? Let's count the ballots. Through court order, he sees the ballots. He has possession of them, because by law they're mandated to be destroyed in May. So he has custody of them, so at least there's a verification. As chair of the Riverside County Board of Supervisors, Karen Spiegel said, this is not going to end until the numbers are reconciled. So let's reconcile the numbers. So let's give for those, there's 3 cases in court right now, 2 at the California Supreme Court, 1 in Riverside Superior Court. So Jay Keel has a hearing again scheduled in the original case that he allowed Chad to start the count. He has a hearing set for Thursday, April 2nd. There's 2 cases. Rob Bonta filed the emergency case after Keel's ruling to the California Appellate Court. They threw it back to the Riverside County Superior Court. So Bonta late Friday filed in the California Supreme Court, which put a temporary restraining order on Chad doing the count. Chad has to have his briefs in tomorrow, April 1st, and Bonta's response by Friday. So obviously, and I doubt once they get his deal on Friday, it'd be very unusual that we won't get a decision from the California Supreme Court till Monday. But that's part of the process. The good news is Sheriff Chad Bianco has the ballots, so at least we got a fighting chance to figure this one out. As long as any court does not remand him to return them to the Register of Voters, it's still game on. So we'll hear what the hearing, or what Jay Keel, I believe is back in his court, on Thursday at Riverside Superior Court. And then we'll hopefully hear how that works with the California Supreme Court. I'm no lawyer, give legal advice, but that's just part of the process of the legal ramblings that cut across these types of situations. The law is, well, in most cases it was written very precise. That's why the language of it is very, sometimes difficult to understand, because the law's got to be written specifically, else they give you the chance to like drugs. Well, okay, let's say heroin has a specific chemical compound. Well, if, let's say you put 2 drops of gasoline in it, well, it's no longer was technically considered heroin, so people were getting off. So they had to redo the laws because, you know, some lawyer got some guy off on this, yada, yada, yada. So the language of the laws are written very, very, very precisely. So we're following the process. We're filing. Chad's got his opportunities to file. Rob does. Again, as long as the ballots are still there, as long as we have physical ballots, then we can reconcile. Is Team Temecula right? Is Riverside County Register of Voters right? Because there could be things of, the court could say, okay, we got to look at this. I don't know what they would be, but we got to redact this, or this is confidential information, or da-da-da. And Rob Bonner, Attorney General, could delay the process. The big question is why? Why wouldn't you just want this settled, Rob, or anybody, or Clarissa Cervantes, or Jose Medina, or Victor Manuel, who seems to be jumping on this bandwagon? Why? And I've said, if Sheriff Chad comes out and counts, there's 657 or whatever thousand pieces of paper with yes or no marked on it. The vote was correct. There's 390 yes, 270 no, or whatever the freaking number is. The ROV put out, or, it's 103 votes, or whatever. If it's a 50, 100, 10, off, okay. Now 45,000. Can you produce? Because in California, my understanding, every vote has to have a ballot piece of paper behind it. And that's what Team Temecula's is saying. Per the numbers they got from ROV, there are not 657,000 pieces of paper, ballots from that. We've not got the envelopes of that, and envelopes bad, envelopes good, coming in the door, There's a lot of things that have been, at least I haven't seen disclosed. As we wrap it up today, I want to get back to California teachers endorsing Eric the Spy Swalwell for governor. We know he was whole banging the fang, the Chinese spy while he was a congressman. The California Post, Eric Swalwell insists Chinese spy case is closed. A bizarre press conference as FBI digs up files. Kash Patel, FBI director, has said, hey, I'm releasing all the files on the Swalwell Chinese spy deal, amongst other things. And, Democrats, especially Swalwell, screaming transparency, except for me. Or except when we're trying to cover up our picadillos and all the money our taxpayer money has been spending paying off the sexual harassment claims of who knows Eric Swalwell or whom else. Oh, we don't want transparency for that. Here's Swalwell the spy.
This case is closed. The Bureau said over 10 years ago, all we did was help. But this effort to weaponize the FBI against the president's political enemy at a time that we are at war shows a distraction. It shows an obsession with going after the president's political opponents.
That we're going into the majority a year from now. We have every intention to do that, and so we will bring oversight, accountability. We will subpoena the Department of Justice, but also private actors who have done these drug deals with the administration, college campuses, entertainment companies, law firms. And so accountability is coming.
So there you have it in the spy Swalwell's words. Oh, for me, 10 years ago, without saying, if you're for transparency, then say, hey, listen, and everything you said is correct. Oh, as soon as I found out nothing was going on. Okay, then why are you scared of them releasing the records? And you're kind of weaponizing government? You, Hakeem Jeffries, Joe Biden, Merrick Garland, going after me and us fellow Sandy R., Luis Palomares, whomever, going to school boards. Oh, weaponize. We don't like what they're saying. Put them in jail. Weaponizing government. Not only your political opponents as fellow electeds, you've went after citizens. And you've advocated for that. And your party has advocated that. And your party put that policy in place until they were caught. Swalwell the spy. Oh, don't come after me. But that mean Donald Trump. How many? We're going to weaponize the government against Donald Trump. Soon as we get together, we win the midterms and we're in the House, we're going to roast his ass. And if you did nothing wrong, Eric, just like Rob Bonner, why are you high? Why do you want anything high? You should actually be filing a letter. Hey, release Kash Patel, put him out there. Please. These disingenuous pieces of ass. And California freaking teachers endorse this. Oh, well, you know, okay, we want to forget about bang, 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 fang, fang. Oh, yeah, as long as you're going after the ones that we don't like, that maybe wanted to expose teachers who have ruined California and the education system in the once greatest, #1 education system in the world. Just so we can have a fatter wallet. Just so we can have them use guns, point them at us, the taxpayer, and say, give us your money or you're going to jail. Man, oh man. I mean, gotta give it the hubris of these guys. But it just shows the double talking, two-faced, lying sacks of S. That most of them. And it goes on the Republicans, like not passing the SAVE Act and everything else. We got to kick the establishment's ass. We can do it in California with the top 2 in June that will send the rocket of freedom, and people are not taking it anymore. We, the people of California, have that. We need to seize the moment like Buddy Kofoid did in Dodge City, Kansas the other day. We need to send it to win it. If you don't send it, you're not going to win it. Look, he was probably out 4 car lengths back, coming out of 2, wins it at the line. Show some balls. That'll do it for today. Mandatory, you're back here in 23 hours live. You're the best darn show in the whole wide world. Until then, see ya.
The proceeding was a...
All right, Roy, take it easy. I'll
You
talk
got
to you
it.
in a couple days. If you're going to the meeting, kick
No,
their ass.
this is the 5th Tuesday of... You usually no meetings on that.
Oh, well.
They give you a day off.
All right, take it easy
Got
then.
it. We'll see you Friday.
Ah!